All right, guys, Josh Crane coming to you from the Josh Crane podcast on this New Year's Eve. Let's talk about what 2026 is going to look like. All right, guys, 2026 is literally right around the corner. And, I've been thinking about what I want my 2026 to look like. I'm not typically one of those people that does New Year's resolutions. Not that I've never done them. But I typically don't kind of sit around and think about, what I want to do now, what changes do I want to make? I don't typically do that. However, this year, a couple days ago, my whole family kind of sat down at the dinner table together. And while we were eating, we went around the table and we talked about, what do we want to accomplish in 2026? And how can we be specific with how we're going to do that? What actual action steps are we going to put in place? And it was really interesting because my wife went first, and one of the things she said was that she wanted to kind of achieve more calm. As you might imagine, our household, probably like yours, stays pretty hectic. A lot of go. Multiple people needing to do multiple different things, a lot of management. So my wife said one of the things she wanted to accomplish was a little bit more calm, and then she set some action steps in order to do that. And what was interesting about that is because that was exactly the same thing that I had in my mind. Like, I want to achieve a little more calm in my life. So we kind of went around the table and we talked about that. We talked about what we want 2026 to look like. Well, in that, one of the things that I have been thinking about is where my time and effort goes. And I find myself getting particularly aggravated at the fact that my rut, so to speak, tends to be allowing other people, other circumstances to control my time and my effort. So I can have the best of intentions. I can tell myself, I'm going to start waking up earlier so that I can go to the gym, have some quiet time, read my Bible a little bit in the morning, meditate, cold plunge, whatever it is that kind of sets my day in motion, because I am a person who, at least for me, and I believe this to be the case really for most people, the tone of your day is set first thing in the morning. And if you hit the ground with chaos, go, your day will basically be like that all day long. On the other hand, if you start your day with intentionality, time for yourself, time for reflection, time between you and God, I think it strengthens you the rest of the day. So one of the things that frustrates me consistently is not doing that and allowing other people and other circumstances to control my time and my effort. Because I'm pretty bad about, whatever. It's Sunday night and I've got really good intentions for Monday morning. I'm going to get up at 4:30. I'm going to drink a cup of coffee with my wife. We're going to do a short little Bible Devo together where I'm going to get outside and get some fresh air. Maybe I'll cold plunge. I'm going to leave. I'm going to go to the gym. I'm going to get a good workout in. I'm going to get a good sweat going, get my body and my mind really ready to tackle the day. And then I'm going to go to the office and I'm going to get started. But Sunday night, 6:30, I happen to look at my email and there's a client that's emailed, "Oh my goodness, this is horrible. I thought blah, blah, blah." And it's just, boom, the bomb goes off. It's chaos. And I am horrible about allowing that to dictate my next move. And instead of saying, no, this is my plan for Monday morning, it's get up, go straight to the office and fix somebody else's problem. And I have to be better about that in 2026, and I intend to be. But also when I was thinking about where does my time and my effort go, I naturally started thinking about where has it not gone that I really want it to go. And that's what brings me to Crane Defense Solutions and the Josh Crane podcast. These are two projects that I have that they don't make any money for me, but I love them. I love especially Crane Defense Solutions. I have a phenomenal team of people that have been with me from the beginning who are always willing at various levels to be involved and to assist. Everybody has, real jobs. And so it's always been difficult for me to, schedule, get an actual calendar going. Well, this is when we're going to be doing this control tactics class. And this is when we're going to be doing this TAC med class. And this is when we're going to be doing this firearms class and, whatever. It's been always hard for me to do that because I am to some degree dependent on those other people in teaching some of those classes, and they have lives of their own. They have jobs of their own. And in fact, right now, my best friend's actually deployed overseas. So he physically can't even do it right now. But Ashley and I sat down a short time ago and we talked about the fact that because this is a passion of mine, and because I do love doing it, and because, quite frankly, I believe I'm good at it, it does need to be something that is a higher priority for me. Because maybe if I'm lucky and I work hard, maybe Crane Defense Solutions can actually begin to offset what I actually have to earn as a lawyer in my quote unquote real job. And I can devote more time to these other things. So with that, I told Ashley, I said, well, I can say this, and I really believe this. I believe Crane Defense Solutions can absolutely take off. The problem that I've had up till now that I have not addressed is one of space, number one, and availability. I transitioned fairly early on with CDS to doing a la carte. And what that looked like was if somebody sent me a text message or they called me or they sent me an email or through word of mouth or whatever, and they said, "Hey, I hear you do gun classes. I'd really like to know the next time you have an all ladies class." Now, those have been really popular with us. What I would do is I would just say, well, I don't have one scheduled, but if you have 3 or 4 other ladies that want to take a class with you, if you'll pull them all together, I'll make it happen. And that's kind of how I did all my classes. It was a la carte. You called me, you said you wanted something, I built it, we went and did it. But I do believe that if I start scheduling classes on a calendar, those classes will start to fill up. And I've always been hesitant to do that because I have to have a place to do it. And that's one of the shortfalls I've always had is where can I actually conduct these classes? So we're working on that end of things. I've had a really good partnership for a few years now with Art Williams with State of the Art Security, who has always been very gracious to me and my company, allowing me to use some of his space to teach classes and things of that nature. It looks like that's going to continue into 2026, and we're actually going to maybe take advantage of that a little more than we have in the past. So that's good. So after thinking about all of this, I went ahead and I pulled the trigger. I hired Grassland Graphics, which is owned by a friend of mine, Adam Howard, who is in the process as we speak of building out the Crane Defense Solutions website. That website is going to have a calendar on it that's going to have our classes, when the next class is coming up. It's going to have some little short videos that we're going to put on. I mean, we've got all kinds of things in the works there. So Crane Defense Solutions, we're really hoping in 2026, I'm going to put some effort behind it. I'm really going to try to make a go at it and see if we can't see some growth with that particular company. And at the same time, I've always, or not always, but for many years, I have dabbled in the podcast space. I've had different permutations of it. I think the very first official one that I ever did, when I actually bought some equipment and everything, was the Forerunner Diaries. And some of you may remember that. And that all started out because literally at that time I was driving my Forerunner. And I would just be driving to work or driving home from work or on my way to court or, whatever. And something would pop in my mind, and I would cut my camera on my phone, and I would just record something and post it. And I just called it the Forerunner Diaries. And then that turned into the podcast by the same name. Did a few interviews like that, tried to make a go of it, didn't really know what I was doing. Still don't to a large degree. And then that kind of fizzled out. And then I think it turned it into something else. I can't even remember. But anyways, the current permutation is the Josh Crane Podcast. And our whole mission behind this podcast is really just we like to interview people. And people ask me sometimes when they know that I do this, they're saying, well, what kind of guests do you want to have? And the answer is, I don't care. Literally anybody. I have said this from the beginning. I firmly believe this. Everyone actually has a story to tell. We get wrapped up in this idea that you have to be super interesting externally to the world in order to be a good podcast guest. You have to be the PhD guy that's developing some, direct energy weapon for NASA, or you have to be. No, you don't. No, you don't. I mean, you can literally be the dude that works at the bank on the corner up here. But what people don't know about you is that in high school, you were like, you won state in the 400 meters, and you actually traveled, to all the different continents in the world your senior year in high school as part of whatever, we all have this weird, interesting thing about us that people will like to know, and it's hard, I understand, to look at yourself and say, that's actually kind of interesting. But we all have that story, right? I mean, I wasn't always a lawyer. Well, what did I do before then? Well, I was born in Louisiana. There are a lot of people don't know that, right? Because it's not, we just don't walk around talking about where we were born. I was born in Louisiana. When I moved to Tennessee, I actually lived in Memphis because my dad was going to Memphis School of Preaching. When he graduated there, we moved up to Monteagle. I lived in Monteagle, went to Monteagle Elementary School. I moved to Murfreesboro. I've flown airplanes. I've ridden bulls. I've got, we all have some kind of story to tell, right? We all have something that motivates us. And I like to sit down and talk to people about that. And so 2026, we want to have more guests come on, be interviewed. Let's talk about your story. And sometimes people just have something that they're personally passionate about. I'm not going to tell you what it is because it's happening tomorrow, but tomorrow morning we're actually doing our first episode for 2026. I've got someone coming in, and they're actually going to be not talking so much about their life story, but about something they experienced, how it impacted them, and why it's important that they think other people need to know it. So I'm looking forward to doing that one tomorrow. So wrapped up in the podcast and Crane Defense Solutions is kind of the underpinning, the foundation of really both of these things and our purpose behind them. And it was not articulated until later. The concept was always there. The idea was always there. The mission was always there. And I don't even remember now exactly how this one came up and just stuck in my mind. And I was like, that's it. But the concept of toward the fight. Everything I post on social media, I always hashtag it toward the fight. You'll see it up here behind me in neon, toward the fight. What does that mean? It means in our physical lives, in our spiritual lives, in our emotional lives, we always have to be moving forward. We have to be moving toward the fight. All of us are going to encounter struggles in life. All of us are going to encounter setbacks, disappointments, pain. That's the battle. And we have an option. We either slink away or we put our head down and we keep moving forward. And the great motivation that I want other people to have, I have not mastered it, but it's always in the back of my mind, is I want you to be moving forward toward the fight. Don't run away from it, right? Keep moving in the direction that you need to go. So in the physical world, I know, because I've lived it for a long time, it is difficult to get up at 4:30 or 5 o'clock in the morning and go to the gym. And, because for me, I've got to pack a bag the night before, get all my stuff ready, make sure I've got all my gym stuff and all my stuff ready to go to court, load it up in the truck, go to the gym, get the workout in, make sure you get done on time, get a shower, grab some breakfast, there's a lot to do in the morning. And so it's easy to say, I'm not going to do that. It'd be a lot easier, man, just to wake up, drink a cup of coffee, get dressed, and be like, all right, I'm going to court now. But is that moving you toward the fight? The answer from the physical perspective, in my opinion, for me at least, is no, it's not. From a spiritual perspective, which probably is the most important one overall, what does that look like? And to me, it can't simply mean, well, I go to church services on Sunday. I've got a lot to say about what church services has become, the show that it has become, the production that it has become, and where it is lacking. But that's for a different podcast at a different time. The reality is we have to continually be strengthening our relationship with God. And that, to me, just like going to the gym, is not easy. It does require, at least for me, you got to get up early and set aside that time that you can meditate, that you can pray, that you can read, or you have to dedicate in the evening. Hey, listen, we're going to do this in the evening on this, these days at this time. You have to schedule that. You have to set that time aside, and you have to do it. And just like going to the gym, the first few times you do it kind of stinks, and it's like, man, this is tough, and I'm kind of forcing myself to do it. But eventually you fall into your routine, and eventually you get to the point where you actually can't function well without it. Okay. So you have to be moving toward the fight in that regard. And then emotionally, this is one, I've had podcasts about this in the past, especially for men. I think this can be difficult, but we have to be dealing with our emotional health. We unfortunately live in a time now, especially with what I will call the male species, because they're not all men, unfortunately, where we have become emotionally weak. We've lost sight of what it means to be a man. We've lost sight of what it means to be emotionally healthy. And a lot of that is because we have listened to what the world tells us we're supposed to be. So moving toward the fight is saying, okay, what is it that makes me a man? To be a man, what does that mean? And emotional health is not just, well, I need to be stronger so I don't cry when something bothers me. It's not what I'm talking about. Emotional health is, how do I treat my wife? Am I locked in on what she needs and the things that help her, or am I only focused on what I want? Emotional health. Am I able to confront things when they don't go the way I want them to go without losing my temper and blowing up? Emotional health. Okay. Am I involved in things that I shouldn't be involved in, that are weaknesses of mine, and I've just accepted it? Or am I fighting against it and seeking out ways to better myself? Emotional health. So the idea is we always need to be moving toward the fight. Don't ever surrender. Don't ever sit down in the mud and just go, I give up. It's too hard. We got to keep pressing forward. So 2026, for me, as it relates to Crane Defense Solutions and the Josh Crane podcast, are to motivate others to move toward the fight. And I want to do that through high quality training and education. I want to do that through quality guests on the podcast. And I think 2026 holds a lot of promise. The question is going to be, for me, am I willing to stay the course and not allow myself to be drugged down into the rut and stay there? That will be my battle. The question for you is, what will your battle be? And I encourage you, even if you're not a person that does New Year's resolutions, sit down at some point and say, what do I want to be in 2026? And then what are one or two action steps that can get me there? And then execute. All right, guys, like I said, tomorrow we'll be back. First guest of 2026 on the Josh Crane podcast. Look forward to seeing you then.